Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all listeners to Wednesday, where a part of me woke up thinking, wow, it's already Wednesday, and the other part said, it's only Wednesday?
Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Well, why don't we get into the stories while I enjoy my morning cup of brew? And what did you make for me today?
I made you some cranberry vanilla tea.
Oh, that sounds dope.
Yes, let me know what you think.
Oh, yeah, that's splendiferous.
It's always about tea being made with love. You can actually feel it infused in the water.
I can.
For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for refusing to eat a smash cake? Yesterday was my nephew's first birthday, and my sister and brother-in-law had a little get-together at their house. When it was time for cake, they brought out my nephew's smash cake. Exactly what it sounds, a cake for the baby to smash up and get icing all over themselves for cute pictures or whatever. I kind of imagined that it would be the size of a big cupcake, but they brought out a regular-sized round birthday cake. I just kind of figured they splurged and still expected the cake to just be for him to play around with. But after my nephew had gone at this cake with his bare hands and stuck his whole face in it, my sister started scooping up the mangled remains and distributing servings to everyone, just a handful of family members, and everyone else was actually eating it. I declined because, seriously, I didn't want to eat something that has had a baby's grubby hands and body all over it, and I was surprised that anyone else did. My sister insisted I take a portion, and I said, really? No, that's gross. Now, I probably wouldn't have used the word gross if I wasn't on the spot, but I was not at all prepared to have to politely decline to eat baby spit. My sister was very hurt by that and told me later on a phone call that I thought was way longer than it needed to be for the severity of the infraction, that she thought I was being extremely judgmental, that it wasn't a big deal, we're all family, don't participate if I really don't want to, but don't call her gross, etc. Am I the a-hole?
Why do you always start these with the hardest things? Wednesday. I will start it off by this. I don't believe the OP is the a-hole just because she doesn't want to eat a cake that the baby mushed around and did everything in. I can also understand it from the mom's point of view that it's a baby. How dirty could it possibly have been? I guess. I mean, actually, if I think about it, babies get pretty dirty. Like, they get over everything. They touch everything. Everything goes in their mouth. All of it. Okay, fine. All right. I can see it. When I talk about it.
I'm glad you talked this through.
When I talk about it, it comes back into frame. So, and she is right, though. When you have smash cake, there is the thing that the baby does. And then there's the cake that everyone else eats. Normally, that's the norm anyway. But I can understand that maybe if funds are a little tight, maybe that's how they were able to do it. But everyone has their reasonings. I don't know why they wouldn't have gotten an extra cake for everyone, because I can understand why you would be bothered by eating a cake when dirty baby all over it. I don't think she's the a-hole. I do think the mom overreacted because it's her baby. That's what moms do, right? It's how we all act with our kids. You know, when someone says something to you in the moment, I hope that she kind of takes a step back and...
But all baby spit is clean.
Yeah,
Well, the consensus is that she's not the a-hole. In fact, a lot of people were very grossed out by this. Yes, the norm is that you generally have 2 cakes, but if you don't have 2 cakes, you would just cut off a piece and give it to the baby because they don't need an entire cake to go ahead and decide to demolish. Now, the fact that could she have said... it's gross. Yeah, she could have cleaned that up, but she was put on the spot and she really didn't want to have to say no more than once.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like we didn't have a piece of this cake, but let's see what's going on with this next baby.
I must be a dirty human because I would have eaten the cake.
Oh, no, I would. No.
Yo, give me some of that. Like, we're sharing. Like, no. I would have eaten it. I love birthday cake.
Strike this from the record.
Like, if I'm around birthday cake, it's a problem.
No. Yeah. I cannot unsee this from my mind's eye.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Yeah.
I would smack that out of your hand so fast.
Do you remember our kid's last birthday? What cake was it?
Was it the ice cream Oreo cake?
Yeah, ice cream Oreo cake.
Oh, no, yeah, it was shaped like a log.
Oh, so good. We ended up destroying that in like 2 days.
I couldn't.
Me and the boy destroyed it. Morning, noon, night.
But y'all's face wasn't in it.
That's true.
Well, let's go on to this next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to name my kid a ridiculous name? My 28 male wife, 27 female, is pregnant with our first baby, and I'm so thrilled to be a father. We recently had some scans and found out that it's a girl. We had an agreement that we wouldn't talk about names until we knew the gender. So of course, on our way home from the gynecologist, we immediately started discussing. We've talked about this a little before, and we agreed that we both have veto power. I suggested my all-time favorite name, Anna. My wife suggested Kaylee, spelled Caeligh, pronounced Kaylee, Kailey. And yes, she spelled it out. I vetoed it. She suggested another name, Riley, spelled Ryleigh. Riley, of course, is spelled Riley. And again, she did spell it out. I vetoed it and suggested Riley spelled the normal way. She refused. She then suggested Novalyn. I vetoed, suggested Nora as an alternative. She again refused. This continued a few more times until she snapped at me, calling me unreasonable for vetoing all her picks. She said, "What's the point in talking about it if you veto all my choices, you controlling asshole?" I responded, "Maybe if you pick something normal, we might get somewhere, but you won't even try to compromise." She looked really hurt, and we drove the rest of the way home in silence. Now, I'm wondering if I'm in the wrong for vetoing her picks and for what I said to her. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Girlfriend was a typo. She's my wife, and I'm an idiot.
So I guess we'll start unpacking it. It's a joyous occasion. They're about to have a kid. They found out they're going to have a daughter.
A little girl.
What a fantastic time in your life.
It could be a Riley or a Kaylee or an
Spelled
Anna
really weird, all of
or
them.
a Novalyn or a Nora.
You know, I think at the end of the day, it's interesting that you guys have veto power because it really doesn't leave the door open for any conversation, right? You guys say it. You don't like it? Vetoed. So that's not a good way to probably go about it. Obviously, feelings were going to get hurt.
Of course.
Because it sounds like she only vetoed like one of yours and then you vetoed everything that came out of her mouth. I think you guys need to get rid of the veto power and go more in towards the let's just talk about every name and go through it why we don't like things or why we do. I think instead of ridiculing her for the way she's spelling it, look about it more how you guys can make it better that both fits you instead of just vetoing it. Like, I think that's really bad. So yeah, you are the a-hole in my opinion.
Well, the consensus is that he's not the a-hole. And let me go ahead and give you an update from our poster. Said after some tough conversations, including showing my wife this thread and my comment in NNCJ, which is Name Nerd Circle Jerk, she admitted that her spellings were a little out there. We decided to look for names that are uncommon but actually have history. I used my traumatic brain injury to convince her that we needed a name that is at least kind of spelled like it sounds. Not entirely untrue, lol. Anyway, we actually decided on Rhea and Elise as our working first choice, with Mercy, Freya, and Eloy as our backups. Thanks, y'all.
Oh, they went way into the mythology names, huh?
Oh, yeah. I think it's quite lovely.
Oh, good. I'm happy they've come to a reasoning. I mean, I guess I said it when I said that they could come together on the spelling of the name.
Correct.
Not just the name. So I understand. I can agree that the spelling was way out there. And we've had stories now where people have spelled their kids' names were really weird. So I can understand that part. But I just don't like... You
can still have an uncommon name and not make it so outlandish that it's just...
They're going to get picked on for it.
Correct. Or so that it's just so weird that nobody can actually say the name.
Yeah. But yeah, good for them. It looks like they've come together and seen reason. And it sounds like the kid's going to have a dope name.
Well, that sounds amazing. Well, let's go ahead and see what this other couple's doing regarding one of their birthdays. For our next story, am I the a-hole for not paying my boyfriend back after he didn't get me the right birthday cake? I definitely have a bit of a complex about this kind of stuff because of how I grew up, always with my siblings getting what they asked for while I almost never did, and generally feeling like I never get my turn at things, so it will be helpful to know if I'm justified or overreacting. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 10 months, and it was my birthday yesterday. I put a lot of effort into birthdays, including his, and was pretty excited about it for the last month or so. There is a local bakery that makes a really good-looking pineapple upside-down cake. I have been really wanting to try it and have been saving it for my birthday. About a month in advance, I told him my birthday was coming up and gave him a few activity ideas and told him that I didn't need a gift, but I really wanted a pineapple upside down cake from XYZ Bakery. He said, sure. Now, I know this was probably annoying, but I did mention the specific cake several times, even before last month. Like, we would drive by the bakery and I'd say something like, oh, hey, that's the place with the pineapple cake. I want to do that for my birthday. I wasn't deliberately hammering the point home or anything, or aware that it was going to end in a cake-centered conflict. But there were a couple occasions where it came up. And then a week before my birthday, I did text him a reminder about the cake so that he would have the bakery info on hand. Yesterday rolls around, and my boyfriend comes over to my apartment and gives me a gift, which is a Kindle. Not a bad gift, and I know they are expensive, but not something particularly relevant to me either. Then he says, let's have cake, and presents what you all know by now is not the pineapple upside down cake, but just a regular grocery store cake with the frosting balloons. Vanilla cake with vanilla buttercream. You guys, I was legitimately sad. If I knew he was going to drop the ball on this, I would have just gotten myself a pineapple cake months ago instead of waiting. I was on the verge of tears because of not getting the one thing I actually wanted, which was that stupid cake. So I told him I was very disappointed and that he should just go home. He had 2 tickets to a comedy show for that night, and one ended up going to waste. Now he's annoyed because it is, of course, just a cake, and wants me to reimburse the cost that he wasted for the ticket. It was only $30, but I'm bristling at the principle of it and said I didn't owe him the money. He sent me a Venmo request for $30. Am I the a-hole if I don't pay?
Spicy meatball. No.
On a cake.
Why? Don't do this to cake. All right. Unfortunately for OP's boyfriend, he told her, sure. Like, this was a done deal. This wasn't up for debate. This is going to happen. So she got the worst. Like, I love the way she explains the story too, because it's a snap by snap of her as an adult looking at it through a child's eyes. Do you know what I mean? Because she's like, she even understands how ridiculous this sounds.
She's like, it's a cake. It's a stupid.
Yeah, she's
cake.
very aware. She understands it. This is what makes this story perfect. But she has every right to be a little miffed about the whole situation because he said yes. She drops a million hints. They go by the bakery. She lets him know a week before, gives him the details to it. She really wanted this pineapple upside down cake. I don't know if I've ever had one, so it sounds like it's dope. Your boyfriend's in the wrong because he said sure. He got your hopes up. Now you reacting in the way you did, calling the rest of the night off. I don't really agree with that part. I think I would have been hurt. Don't get me wrong. If you say that we're going to get something for a birthday and it doesn't happen, and I the entire time are dropping hints going, hey, I really want that cake. It's not an option. I would understand. So
the whole evening would burn for me if I didn't get it.
so, yeah.
It would be the end. I'd be like, birthday done. I'm going to sleep now. Wake me up tomorrow.
Yeah, that was probably his foul. I don't think it was a money situation for him.
And she said she was pretty thrilled about the activity that he picked because of the activities that she gave him ideas for. She just said either we can go to the train museum, go out for some sushi, or any event that's happening in the city. And his activity for them that night fell along
Comedy
that.
club. That's
yeah,
dope.
she said that she would have probably enjoyed it.
So I guess we'll circle around to all of it. In my opinion, OP, you're not the a-hole. You wanted this cake pretty bad. This was the plan. He said he was going to get it by saying sure. That is an acknowledgement that something is going to happen. You basically made a promise.
She reminded him several times with texts.
And promises are very important. They should be kept. Once you start getting involved with someone who does not take promises seriously, that's never a good situation. When you promise, that should be ironclad. It's your word. It's how you build trust. So I definitely believe that you're not the a-hole for not giving him back $30. Hopefully next time when he says he's going to do something for you, he does something for you.
Well, the consensus is that she's not the a-hole. In the end, what he wants money back for is this ticket that he purchased for her as a gift, correct?
That's very true.
And
I didn't even think about it from that angle. That
the
was a
bottom
gift.
line is it's her choice if she wants to go or not. And if the mood was ruined and she no longer wants to go, that's her gift. If she doesn't want to go and he had to sit there alone, that's probably how she felt when she was sitting there and she asked for something that she really wanted and never got it. So a lot of it stems to just that bottom line. It's her gift, still her $30.
Very true. Take your Kindle back. Give me my cake.
She was just like, the Kindle's nice, but isn't relevant.
I love her candidness about the whole thing. It's like, I know I'm being a child. Give me my cake. I would have eaten it months ago. Steven.
I just see her wanting to go back into the DeLorean and just go back in time and grab this cake herself and be like, take the cake. He's not going to get it for you.
That's terrible.
Well, I keep getting us into these cake fiascos, don't I? I guess we should go to court next.
Oh.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for taking my brother-in-law to small claims court over art supplies? A bit of context. I, 29 male, like to draw and try other mediums as well. As such, I've accumulated a lot of art supplies over the past few years. My wife, Sally, 27 female, also dabbles a bit, and we have converted one of our rooms in our home to an art studio of sorts. There's easily a few $1,000s worth of art supplies in that room, and we tend to keep it locked for that reason. Most important to me are my pencils and markers, which are not cheap. Chart pack for those who care. Just to put a little bit of context, because I was curious about the price of these, a handful of these is like $90. You're talking about sets of them being hundreds of dollars.
Wow.
So it's a lot of money. On to the story. Sally and I had her family over for her aunt's birthday a few weeks back, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law brought their kids with them, 7 female and 6 male. We had forgotten to lock the door to the room that day. About an hour into the party, I noticed that both kids were nowhere to be seen, so I asked my sister-in-law if she knew where they were. She said that they were drawing in the other room. I asked if my wife was with them, and she said she, sister-in-law to be clear, not Sally, just told them which room it was in. I immediately rushed over to the art room and found it was a total mess. Most devastatingly was the fact that all my markers were ruined because the kids were using way too much force, causing the tips to fray. I yelled at them to get out, and they started crying. My brother-in-law ran over and started yelling at me, saying that they're just kids and it's just markers. I told him that the markers alone were $17 a piece, and he said I was stupid for paying that much. Sally tried to defuse the situation, but my brother-in-law started yelling at her too, saying we can't have this much art supplies and not expect kids wanting to use it. I told him he's paying to replace the markers and other supplies they ruined, and he told me to go fuck myself and laughed. Everyone left shortly after that. I totaled up the damages, and I needed to replace about $375, and found that the kids drew on a piece I had spent the past week working on, as well as ruining a finished piece Sally did. I sent him a bill, and he blocked me. So I talked with my friend who was a lawyer and had him draft a claim for small claims court and a letter to send my brother-in-law. I paid him for this, of course. My wife is in agreement about this, but her family has been mobbing us, telling us we're being ridiculous over some markers. Only my father-in-law, who also has taken up painting recently, and my other sister-in-law say that my brother-in-law has to pay. Am I the a-hole?
Okay. Let's go on this journey together.
I'm ready.
All right. So first, some clarification. How old are the kids?
The kids were 7 and 6.
7 and 6. They're very young. Obviously, they want to draw. Sounds like they're at a party.
Correct. An aunt's birthday party.
So they were more than happy to let the kids go and run off and do their own thing. Now, my understanding is that the kids found their way to this room through whose permission?
Their mother.
Their mother, not OP or his wife.
Correct.
Does he say that she got permission from OP's wife to let those kids in there?
No.
Okay.
So
she assumed.
Correct. So when he asked the sister-in-law, hey, do you know where your kids are? She said, oh, they're in the art room. And she said, wait, is my wife in there with her? And she said, no, I just told the kids to go in that room. That's when he ran
So she looked into this room and had no idea how much art supplies cost or whose possessions these were. She just said,
go ahead and have at it, kids.
That's terrible. Obviously, just by that right there, most people, I'm sure, said that OP is not the a-hole. That sucks. That sounds like an expensive amount of stuff that was ruined. He says $375, something in that neighborhood.
Correct.
That sucks, man. Obviously, the yelling probably didn't help any of the situation. It's always interesting to me when I hear people get to that place first.
It just shows just how vulnerable they are.
Sure.
Or surprised.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if I would have handled it quite like that if seeing kids ruining something. He does say it. They didn't lock the door. I can't say if that's more on him or on the kids and the parent, because if you don't want someone in there, obviously you lock the door.
Correct.
But it is also your home, and no one should be going into any door that's shut. I assume this door was probably shut.
Yes, just not locked.
So they allowed themselves in to a room in a home that they didn't own.
Correct.
That's the issue. You're not the a-hole OP. I can guarantee you're probably never seeing that money. Like, I guess he says small claims, but I mean, maybe you'll see it. But the whole family dynamic's done for. Like, you're never going to have another party with them again. Like, I guess you're saying goodbye to the opportunity of that, because that's going to happen. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, let's bury the hatchet. I paid you $375 for my kids, because they clearly don't believe that their kids did anything wrong.
Correct.
And that they're not owing you.
I guess you can say, making it seem like the interests of our poster and his wife are not important because it's
or
just
they're
art.
Childish.
Yeah,
it's child's play to draw. That's ridiculous. What? So yeah, you're not the a-hole OP.
Well, let me go ahead and let you know what the consensus is. And of course, it's not the a-hole, as you can tell. And let me just go ahead and hit you with an update from our poster.
Oh, I love updates.
First off, holy shit. I did not expect this to blow up. I posted, figured I'd get a handful of responses, and turned off Reddit. I am extremely grateful that so many took the time to read and respond to this post. I'm going to read as many comments as I can, but I can't read them all. Either way, thank you all. Anyways, last night, my father-in-law called my wife and told us to come over. When we arrived, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law were already there. Father-in-law sat us down and told us we're figuring this out now, and anyone who leaves gets written out of his will. Brother-in-law asked if he seriously would disinherit him over markers. Father-in-law asked him, would you seriously get disinherited then talk this out like adults? He called all of us childish, but figured the threat of court would make brother-in-law admit he was at fault. He also was mad at me for reacting so nuclear and ruining Aunt's birthday. After an hour and a half of talking, brother-in-law said he was sorry and would replace the supplies his kids ruined. I apologized for making a scene, and Sally and I are taking Aunt out for dinner tonight with father-in-law as an apology. I don't really care about the judgment here, since I realized whether or not I was right for taking brother-in-law to court, because my asshood from ruining the party far outweighs that. Hopefully things mend well with my wife's family.
Well, sounds like they got a good pop-up. He set them down in the room like the children they were for the situation they started.
And his first thing was, if you leave, you're disinherited.
Hey, different strokes for different folks. And it sounded like it worked out. I know there's still going to be some hurt feelings about it, but at least this is a good foundation to start rebuilding it and getting some understanding from it. I do always love when people don't believe that they should be paying for their property that they ruined.
Oh, yes.
Like, you're the one in the wrong for wanting to be reimbursed for your things being destroyed.
If anything, the situation, yes, it escalated. However, the problem was the property was ruined, and it wasn't by who owned the property.
Yep.
So it should be the individuals who actually ruined it.
Yeah, he definitely could have handled it better. Like I said before, I wouldn't have been yelling at kids. That would have been a conversation I had with the parents. But everyone acts differently, and hopefully he learns from that experience not to get so, in his words, nuclear. So, hey, you live and you learn.
Well, just to let you know, while I was reading through a lot of these comments regarding the story, it actually led me to our next story. So let me get right into it.
Wow.
For our next story, am I the a-hole for not forgiving my stepsister for crashing my car? My stepsister, female 21, crashed my female 18 new car after I told her she couldn't use it again. My stepsister, name her Paula, had 2 cars. Both she got from her dad and my mom, and she destroyed both of them within months after she got them. My mom and her dad got married when I was 11 after my dad died 3 years prior. I had a hard time accepting her dad and her, but in the end, I got used to it, and we have a solid relationship, at least her dad and me. Paula got her first car when she was 17, just after she got her license. It was an older Audi she got from her dad. It wasn't the nicest car, but a good start. She didn't like the car, but it was better than nothing, so she used it. But after 4 months, she crashed it into my mom's car as she was coming back from a party. The second car she had, she got last year for Christmas. My mom and dad bought it for her, but guess what? She drove it into the river on New Year's because she forgot to put the handbrake on. My mom and her dad were furious, but she didn't care. She said she would just buy a new car and they should chill out. She moved out afterwards to her own apartment. So I just bought myself my dream car, a Mini Cooper 2014. I did years of saving for it. My stepsister visited 2 weeks ago over the weekend while I was at my grandparents' house. So I thought she could use my car while I was gone and drove shopping with it. As I got home, I saw a huge scratch at the back. I asked my mom how it got there. She was clueless. She didn't know Paula took the car while they were sleeping. Paula, looking all innocent, said she took the car on a little shopping tour because I wasn't using it. I was so angry at her and said if she ever uses my car again without my okay, I would kick her arse to the moon and back. She said she was sorry and that some idiot was it, not her. When I was coming home today, I saw my car crashed into the wall in front of our house and Paula, my mom, and her dad standing beside it. I was furious. I asked what happened and how my car was in the wall. Paula said she accidentally crashed it because she wanted to drive to the nail salon and she confused the front and reverse gears. I exploded. I screamed at her that I want her to pay for the car and that she was a horrible person because she didn't even look guilty for destroying my car and she should never drive a car again in her life because all she does is cause accidents. I stormed away and locked myself into my room. Her dad said I should forgive her and that it was an accident, but we were sisters. I was shocked and so disappointed in my mom because she said nothing against it. I said that she wasn't my sister and I would never forgive her and that I would move to my grandparents and that she should better pay for my car or I would sue her. He said that I was a brat talking to them like that and that not forgiving her would make me a bad human being. So, am I the a-hole for not forgiving her?
Absolutely not. This story is severe. We're talking about the safety of not just her sister, but all the people that are on the road sharing it with her. She's a bad driver. And what's worse is it sounds like all these accidents happened basically not on the road. If that's what was happening not on the road, I'm shocked she was able to get anywhere. She crashed into a parked car.
Her mom's parked car.
She crashed into a wall.
Their wall, yes. She scratched the back of it on another occasion. And then her second car, she drove into a river. I don't understand why she thought it was okay to borrow any car that wasn't hers, especially given her track record. It sounds like your family is playing favoritism because if they're not taking or holding your sister accountable for everything she's done, obviously there's a reason why she keeps reoffending. Mylanta is all I really have to say to this story is you're not doing that girl any favors by not fixing the problem. In fact, because she wasn't taught lessons every time these things happened, she did this. She thought it was okay to basically steal your car. That's grand theft. You're in your right to have charged her. I think she stole your car and then wrecked it. She says it. She's going to, if she doesn't pay, she's going to sue her. I fully support that. That's not how family treats each other. You don't take each other's belongings. It sounds like she worked really hard for this car. 2014, I forget the actual make. Mini Cooper.
That's great for her. And to have it smashed up into a wall and for someone, again, it sounds like the sister had no care in the world about it actually happening. So that really sucks. Doesn't really sound like the sister worked for her cars the way she worked for hers. You're not in the wrong. I'm sorry that happened to you. Sounds like you lost your first car and your dream car all at once. That has to feel like, and then to not have the support from the family. That's different. So yeah, OP, I support you suing your sister and moving out of that house because it sounds like your stepdad never really had your back and it sounds like your mom fell in line with supporting his ideas about you.
Well, the consensus is that she's not the a-hole. And in fact, I have an update.
Oh, please be good.
Trying to do this update again. Hopefully this will go out. Today morning, I got a call from my stepdad saying Paula came crying and drunk driving in a car to them and begged him to try to change my mind on the police because she doesn't want to get into trouble. He said if I go to the police, my uncle won't do anything for me and that I'm no longer welcome at home. I just got back from the police station and filled a report of theft and damage to the property against Paula. Turned out Paula and her dad called the police and said that I would frame her and that I crashed the car into the wall. So I'm on my way to a lawyer to help me with all of that. I also called my insurance company and they said that they would work on getting me the money I deserve. I'm now living at my grandparents' house and will distance myself from the rest for a while. Some of you have some questions about stuff, so I don't know why my mom didn't say anything against Paula and her dad. She's normally very vocal on her bad driving skills. Paula got both cars bought for her because she doesn't have the money to buy one herself, but I had, so they only bought her the cars. When she crashed into my mom's car, she damaged only the right side of the car, so my mom wasn't that pissed at her. Paula always got out of trouble because my uncle always got her out of it. She got her license after the third time trying and only after my mom helped her out. She also got into an accident when she drove my mom's car and went to a hospital for a broken leg, but nothing really happened to the car. I will update when something happens, and thank you all for your support in the comments. It helped a lot. Small update. Just found out that my stepsister tried to fight my mom after she contacted me and wanted me to come back home. She's in the hospital right now because Paula broke her nose. I'm on my way to her and hope she's all right and see what kind of person she really is. Again, new update. Paula got arrested for stealing the car from a neighbor, and my stepdad is not talking to my mom or me right now, and my mom is thinking about getting a divorce. I don't really know what to say. I'm just overwhelmed about the situation right now, so yeah.
Wow. What an update. Yes, your mom needs to get a divorce. That is terrible. I think the thing that shocked me the most was when one of her updates, she goes, yeah, she's driving back home drunk. You're on the road drinking and driving. I have no sympathy for those humans. You're putting everyone at risk. I don't care about your life. I care about everyone else's. You're putting in peril because you're being a complete wiener jacket. There are so many solutions to that, you imbecile. I hope that she serves time. She needs to be taught a lesson. Her dad wasn't willing to, and look what it developed into. She punched her mom, broke her nose.
Oh yeah, which is crazy.
What type of values do you guys have that was acceptable to do?
Not good ones.
Those are terrible updates. Good for you for getting out. Stay away from your family. Or really, I don't know if I would consider people that did that to me family.
Well, let's go on to our last story then. Am I the a-hole for helping my son avoid his family after his wife cheated? I don't really feel great about throwing this on the internet, but everyone is too pissed to talk to me, so this is about what I've got. My son and his wife have been together for 6 years and have a little 4-year-old girl. They've had their problems every once in a while, but to me, it seems like they always work through it. I know he absolutely loves her, and I thought they were very close. But 3 days ago, my son came to my door at 10 at night, drunk, sick, and in complete tears. I guess she'd been cheating on him for some time, and during an argument, she finally admitted it. He just fell apart. He could hardly breathe right. I cleaned him up and put him in bed, and that's about where he's been since. He looks ill. He won't eat. I've never seen him so upset. His wife and her family were calling us both repeatedly, but we just didn't deal with it at first. He was devastated. I wanted him to have a moment to gather himself. This morning, I bit the bullet and answered her call. She was angry he had walked out and left her with their daughter and said she just wanted to talk this out like adults. I told her that she could talk to him when he chose to contact her and that I think he'd want to work something out, but she needed to give him some space. She got more upset, and I told her I wouldn't talk if she was going to throw a fit, so she hung up. I don't know what she told her family, but I've since gotten calls from her mom begging me not to let him leave her and their daughter. Her sister called to berate me for protecting a deadbeat father. They're all freaking out. He isn't abandoning his family. His life has been turned on its head, and I want him to have some time to find his feet. It's just been 3 days. It's not like he's run away, but now everyone is angry at me for letting my son leave his daughter, which he absolutely adores that little girl. He'd never just up and leave. So am I the a-hole for letting him stay with me to get away from his family? I know it leaves his wife in a tight spot, but it's been 3 days and she hardly works part-time. It's not like he's left her with an impossible task, and I absolutely intend to have my son deal with this, but I just can't see him feeling like this, and I don't think I could have any meaningful conversation this way. What should I do? I'm not trying to let him hide from his responsibilities, but he's hurting and needs time to breathe. Some additions and edits to clarify. Of course, we've discussed the possibility that his daughter might not be biologically his, but he doesn't plan to abandon her regardless. He loves his little girl and would despite anything. And as far as her family knows the full story, I have no clue. I haven't even tried talking to them yet. Am I the a-hole?
Wow, this is a situation.
It's a bad one.
Yeah. I'll go to that last remark first. I don't know if the family knows about that, because if they're calling him a deadbeat dad on the calls, I doubt they understand the severity of what had just happened. I would hope, though, that the wife in this situation has disclosed that information to the family. If she's going on the horn of telling everyone that he's abandoning them, I guess we'll swing around to the beginning. Man, there's nothing worse in life than betrayal. It sucks. There has to be trust in order for there to be betrayal. You have to have the two, unfortunately. His life is completely turned upside down. Everyone handles cheating differently. That's why I don't agree with people doing it to each other. If you're done with the relationship you're in, call it quits, walk away. So I would agree with the parent in giving the son a place to gather himself and figure it out. He says it's been 3 days. I'm guessing there's been no contact between OP's son and his wife or the daughter.
I don't think so.
Do we blame him after finding out this stuff? I mean, they even went to this headspace where now even the daughter's paternity is up for grabs. That's bad. If you're already kind of like making those bridges in your mind, I don't know if I would go to that extent. If you really are worried about that, go get a test. Don't let that linger. That's a big problem in our culture now. There's a lot of kids that are being raised by parents that weren't theirs, but thought that they were biologically theirs. So that's a phenomena that's been happening way more often now. So I tell this to everyone, if there is even a inkling that might have been going on, go get the test. Stop wondering. You're not doing yourself any favors. I don't believe that OP in this situation is the a-hole. I think that they're just trying to be a good parent and give their son reprieve and a chance to gather himself, because his entire life now, I can understand where when you're talking about cheating and someone having to accept that fact, then it sounds like already, again, we're talking about the paternity of the daughter. All the facts in his life now are now laid to light, and all of it could be a lie. Come to terms with saying that my entire life, the foundations of it are built off of lies and deceit.
Which would be awful.
So can you blame someone for having that reaction?
No.
I'm shocked at what the family is trying to do to OP's son. They clearly don't understand the severity of what happened. I hope they don't, because if they are and they're still attacking him like this, you guys need to get your priorities straight. Your family member cheated on her husband. What? And you have no sympathy for it outside of calling him a deadbeat? He clearly loves his daughter, and he already says it, that even if it wasn't his, he's going to take care of her. That's asking more than he owes them, if that's what really happened, in my opinion. Definitely you're not the a-hole, OP. Stay strong. Help your kid get through this tough moment, because it sounds like no one else is in his corner.
Well, the consensus is that the OP is not the a-hole. In fact, a lot of people are saying take a paternity test. In fact, take an STD test. Make sure that everything's okay.
Sure.
Because you never know.
Sure.
Go ahead and just prepare.
It's going to be battle, because it sounds like
down.
the whole family doesn't agree with you, but they'll agree with a cheater.
Which is very sad, unfortunately.
Was there any good updates?
Unfortunately, there's no updates on this story. So it must be left as it is. Although it's been less than a month, so hopefully they're still figuring it out.
That sucks. That's a terrible way to end off Wednesday. It started so well. Cake.
It was delicious.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We are regularly posting on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
Well, I'll leave you with one final question on Wednesday. What's your favorite birthday cake? I love them all.
I love high quality cakes.
I'll
Don't get me that cheap grocery store stuff.
Give it to me.
No. Ugh.
And remember, if you post it, maybe we'll see it on the internet.